The crystalline walls of the Royal Star Cruiser Eternal Bloom hummed with an energy that made Kalen Drake's teeth ache. He adjusted his diplomatic uniform for the third time, watching the pale purple-skinned figures move through the grand hall with their characteristic fluid grace. The Xanthari were beautiful in an otherworldly way, tall, elegant, with dark curly hair that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Nervous, Dr. Drake asked Ambassador Thorne, the grizzled diplomat who had brought him aboard as a xenobotanist consultant. You've studied their biology for years. This should be routine. Kalen nodded, though his palms were sweating. Studying the Xanthari from afar was different from being surrounded by their psychic presence. He could feel their collective consciousness at the edge of his mind, like whispers in a language he almost understood. The ceremony began with Queen Vierel's entrance. She was magnificent, 7 feet tall, with an aura of command that made the air itself seem to bend around her. Her pale purple skin had an opalescent quality, and her dark curls were woven with silver threads that caught the light. She moved with the fluid precision of a dancer, her 2 hands gracefully extended as she greeted the human delegation. Then she collapsed. The psychic scream that erupted from the assembled Xanthari nearly knocked Kalen unconscious. Vierel's elegant form crumpled to the crystalline floor, her body convulsing as waves of energy rippled from her. The royal guard rushed forward, but it was High Counselor Ixen who reached her first. Emergency session, Ixen commanded, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. Clear the hall. Human delegation, remain. Within minutes, Kalen found himself in a private chamber with Ambassador Thorne, facing a circle of Xanthari officials whose expressions ranged from desperate to terrified. Queen Vierel lay on a bio-bed, her breathing shallow but steady. The queen is dying, Ixen announced without preamble. Genetic feedback crisis. Her fertile cycle has reached its final window, 72 hours remain. Thorne leaned forward. I'm sorry for your loss, but why are we? Without an heir, our empire fragments into civil war, Ixen interrupted. The royal bloodline must continue. But our males. She paused, her composure cracking. The coup took them all. Every viable genetic match is dead. Kalen's blood ran cold as every Xanthari I turned to him. What are you saying? We're saying, Dr. Drake, Ixen replied, that you're the only compatible biological match left in the galaxy. The Queen's private chambers were a study in alien elegance. Bioluminescent vines cascaded from the ceiling, their soft glow casting dancing shadows across walls of living crystal. Kalen sat rigidly in a chair that had molded itself to his form, trying to process what had happened in the past hour. Queen Vierel emerged from an adjoining chamber, no longer wearing her ceremonial robes. Instead, she wore a simple flowing garment that accentuated her tall, graceful figure. Her pale purple skin seemed to glow with its own inner light, and her dark curls fell freely around her shoulders. Despite her recent collapse, she moved with regal poise. You're afraid, she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed to resonate in his chest. I can feel it. Wouldn't you be? Kalen managed, his voice hoarse. I'm a scientist, not a royal consort. I study plant biology, Your Majesty. I'm not equipped for this. Vierel settled into the chair across from him, her movements fluid and hypnotic. Call me Vierel. If we are to be bonded, formality serves no purpose. She leaned forward, her violet eyes studying his face. I will not force you, Kalen Drake. But I will be honest about what I offer. Which is a partnership. Not just biological, but political. Emotional. Psychic. She extended her hand, palm up. The Xanthari bond is not merely physical coupling. It is a melding of minds, of souls. You would become my equal, my co-ruler. The first human to share in our collective consciousness. Kalen stared at her offered hand. And if I refuse? Then I die within 3 days, and billions perish in the civil war that follows. Her voice carried no accusation, only fact. But I will not guilt you into this choice. It must be freely given, or the bond will fail. He could feel something at the edge of his consciousness, a warm presence, patient and strong. You're already in my head, aren't you? Only what you allow, VRL replied softly. The connection began when you were exposed to our psychic resonance. I can feel your confusion, your attraction, your fear. But I cannot compel you. Attraction? Kalen's cheeks burned. A small smile played at VRL's lips. You find me beautiful. I find you intriguing. Your mind is unlike any I've encountered, curious, compassionate, resilient. These are rare qualities, even among my own people. Slowly, hesitantly, Kalen reached out and placed his hand in hers. Her skin was warm, almost electric against his palm. The moment their flesh touched, images flashed through his mind, VRL as a young princess, the weight of the crown, the loneliness of absolute power. I can't promise I'll survive whatever ritual you have in mind, he said quietly. Then we'll face that uncertainty together, VRL replied, her fingers intertwining with his. Will you try? The preparation chamber was unlike anything Kalen had ever seen. The walls pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light that seemed to match his heartbeat. Pools of luminescent water dotted the floor, and the air itself shimmered with barely visible energy patterns. The ritual requires purification, VRL explained, her voice soft in the ethereal space. Body and mind must be cleansed before we can attempt the bonding. Over the past day, Kalen had learned more about Xanthri culture than years of academic study had taught him. The mating ritual was sacred, dangerous, and had never been attempted between species. The psychic requirements alone could kill him. You're having second thoughts, VRL observed, approaching him with graceful steps. She wore only a gossamer wrap that seemed to be woven from starlight itself. Her pale purple skin glowed softly in the chamber's light, and her dark curls fell like silk around her shoulders. Constantly, Kalen admitted. But I keep coming back to the same conclusion. He turned to face her, taking in her alien beauty. I can't let you die. I can't let your people suffer. Is that the only reason? VRL asked, stepping closer. Her hand rose to touch his cheek, and the contact sent warm pulses through his nervous system. What do you feel when you look at me? Through their growing psychic link, Kalen could sense her emotions, hope, desire, a deep loneliness that resonated with his own. I feel connected. Like I've been waiting my whole life without knowing what I was waiting for. VRL's eyes closed, and he felt her consciousness brush against his more intimately than before. Memories flowed between them, his childhood fascination with the stars, her coronation ceremony, his failed relationships, her burden of rule. They were sharing not just thoughts but the very essence of who they were. The bond is forming naturally, she whispered, her forehead touching his. This is unprecedented. Usually, it requires the full ritual to achieve such depth. What does that mean? It means we're compatible in ways my counsel never anticipated. Her hands framed his face, and he could feel her pulse synchronizing with his own. It means you might actually survive what comes next. The chamber around them responded to their growing connection, the lights pulsing brighter, the very air seeming to celebrate their union. Kalen pulled her closer, their bodies fitting together with surprising harmony despite their different origins. I'm scared, he admitted against her ear. So am I, VRL replied, her voice trembling. But I'm also hopeful. For the first time in years, I'm not alone. Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and electric, sealing their commitment to each other and to the impossible task ahead. The sacred chamber thrummed with ancient power. Crystalline formations jutted from the walls, each one pulsing with a different color of light. The air itself seemed alive, thick with psychic energy that made Kalen's skin tingle. At the center of the room stood a raised dais carved from a single piece of iridescent stone. The ritual chamber has not been used in over a century, VRL explained, her voice reverent. She had changed into ceremonial robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, flowing and shifting with each movement. The last time was for my great-grandmother's bonding. High Counselor Ixon and the other council members arranged themselves around the chamber's perimeter, their faces grave. The energies required could kill a human, Ixon warned one final time. Are you certain about this path? Kalen looked at VRL, seeing not just the queen but the woman beneath, vulnerable, hopeful, and trusting him with her life and the fate of her people. I'm certain. The ritual began with VRL's voice rising in an ancient chant. The crystalline formations responded, their light growing brighter and more intense. Kalen felt the psychic pressure building, pressing against his mind like a physical force. Give yourself to the bond, VRL whispered as she approached him. Don't fight it. Let our consciousness merge. As their bodies came together on the sacred dais, Kalen felt his sense of self beginning to dissolve. VRL's thoughts flooded into his mind, her memories, her fears, her desperate love for her people. In return, she experienced his humanity, his wonder at the cosmos, his growing love for her. The physical union was intense beyond anything he had ever experienced. Their different biologies somehow found harmony, guided by the ancient psychic forces that govern xanthary reproduction. Energy coursed between them, through them, around them, until Kalen couldn't tell where he ended and VRL began. Pain and pleasure mingled as his human nervous system struggled to process the alien sensations. He felt VRL's concern through their link, her efforts to shield him from the worst of the psychic storm. But he endured, driven by love and determination. At the climax, light exploded from the crystalline formations, bathing them in radiance. Kalen felt something fundamental shift within him, a new awareness, a connection to the vast network of xanthary consciousness. He was still human, but he was also something more. VRL cried out, her body arching as the ancient forces completed their work. Through their bond, Kalen felt the moment of conception, a spark of new life forming from their impossible union. As the light faded and the chamber grew quiet, they lay entwined on the dais, both fundamentally changed. VRL's pale purple skin had taken on a subtle luminescence, while Kalen discovered he could sense the thoughts and emotions of every xanthary in the chamber. It's done, VRL whispered, her voice filled with wonder. The heir is conceived. The empire is saved. But more than that, Kalen realized as he looked into her violet eyes, they had truly bonded. He was no longer just a human scientist, he was her consort, her equal, her eternal partner. 3 weeks had passed since the ritual, and the Royal Star Cruiser hummed with renewed energy. The successful bonding had sent waves of relief and celebration throughout the Xanthary Empire. Kalen stood on the observation deck, watching distant stars whirl past, his hand resting on VRL's still flat stomach. The healers confirm it, VRL said, joining him at the viewport. Her pale purple skin had taken on a subtle luminescence since their bonding, and her dark curls seemed to shimmer with inner light. The heir is healthy and developing normally. A perfect hybrid of our species. And the Empire? Stable. The faction leaders have accepted our union, especially after witnessing the psychic resonance we've achieved. She leaned against him, and he felt her contentment through their bond. Some are calling it the dawn of a new age, the age of human xanthary cooperation. Kalen marveled at how natural their connection had become. He could sense her thoughts and emotions as easily as his own, and she could feel his wonder at the vast cosmos they now shared. The psychic network of the xanthary had welcomed him, though he remained uniquely human at his core. Are you happy? VRL asked, her violet eyes searching his face. Happier than I ever thought possible, Kalen replied honestly. I came aboard as a xenobotanist, thinking I'd catalog some alien flora and go home. Instead, I found this. You. A family. A future I never imagined. VRL's hand joined his on her stomach. Our child will be the first of their kind, human and xanthary, bridging 2 worlds. They'll inherit both your curiosity and our psychic abilities. What about my role as consort? I still feel like I'm learning. You're learning perfectly, VRL assured him. The council respects you, the people accept you, and you've already begun implementing agricultural reforms based on your botanical knowledge. You're not just my consort, you're my partner in every sense. Ambassador Thorne appeared at the deck's entrance, his expression amused. Your Majesties, the morning briefing is ready. Though I have to say, Kalen, you've certainly exceeded your original mission parameters. Kalen laughed, remembering the nervous scientist who had boarded the ship weeks ago. That's one way to put it. He turned to VRL. Ready to rule an empire? With you beside me? Always. As they walked toward the bridge, Kalen felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a privilege. He was no longer just a human among aliens. He was VRL's consort, the Empire's co-ruler, and the father of the future heir. Most importantly, he was exactly where he belonged. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of possibilities for their joined species. And at the center of it all, the bond between a human scientist and an alien queen had created something entirely new, a love that would reshape the galaxy itself.